We're going.
Hi, guys. So welcome to Party Animals, which is a political podcast. And I am joined with a great group of guest commentators. So why don't we just go around and introduce ourselves, kind of say who you are, where you're from, what you're studying at St. Joe, and what you're involved in at St. Joe.
Well, I'm Brad Parsons. I'm from like 20 minutes north of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a political science major. I believe most of us are here. I'm on the baseball team. Was part of SA. It was kind of sketchy. I didn't get in this year. Part of College Republicans.
Don't be bitter at all, Brad.
Love Your Melon and Investment Club.
I'm Stephen Nickel. I am a senior at St. Joe's College. I'm a double major in political science and business with a minor in economics. Let's see, what clubs am I not involved with? I'm involved in a lot of clubs. I'm president of College Republicans, treasurer of Enactus, treasurer of the Econ Club. I've been a senator in SA for 4 years. Let's see, what else? I'm also in the Investment Club, Women Habitat for Humanity.
Aren't you in that one club that Mike has tacos?
Oh yeah, I am in Latinos Unidos actually as well.
The taco club.
They do have snacks.
The taco club.
They do have snacks at all their meetings. It is fantastic. I'm also the vice president of the senior class. I think that's really all for me.
Good plug. I'm Peter Monroe. I'm from Liverpool, England. My major is political science, and my minor is currently digital media and journalism. I'm on the soccer team. I'm co-hosting The Ticket with Jose Ortega. I'm also the VP of the College Democrats and loads of other stuff, but that'll do for me.
Name's Jose. I'm a double major in political science communication, president of the Student Association. I work at the library, so that's always fun. Let me see.
You say that kind of the exact opposite is true, Jose.
Is it fun?
You get paid to sit there and do your homework. I mean, you can't get a much better job.
That's like me at the writing clinic as well.
That's true. Do half the students even know that exists?
Yeah, I know. I don't want them to know.
I'm involved in TV and radio. I'm co-hosting the Ticket with Pete Monroe. Let me see, what else? I'm just pretty busy. I feel like I'm running around half the time. I'm not even doing anything. I'm literally just running around campus half the time. Why lie? I'm actually walking around campus half the time.
I was about to say.
I was going to say, I've never seen you run.
Yeah, so that's basically me. I'm a senior. I don't know if I said that, but.
Awesome. I'm Lindsay Working. I'm a senior. Probably the only I'm the only non-political science major.
Because you bailed on us.
No. My major is digital media and journalism, and my minor is political science, so I'm still there.
Not gonna hold it against you.
In quite a few clubs. I mean, I'm in campus ministry. I play soccer, SA. I help plan the Covenant House Candlelight Vigil every year, which is coming up, actually. I don't know what else I'm in. That's a lot of things, but that's it. That's it for now.
Hello, I'm Eugene Masterson. I'm a fifth-year senior. My major is computer science and social studies. No, actually. Hi, I am Jordan Lysing. I am the assistant professor of political science here at St. Joseph's College. This is my second year. I actually went here back in the day. I graduated in 2011 from St. Joe. I'm currently a PhD candidate at the University of Kentucky. I specialize in environmental politics and policy, state politics, thinking about urban agriculture, that sort of thing. Back in the day when I was here, I was Student Association President. I was involved in Student Union Board, which is now Puma Activities Council. What else was I involved in? I did a lot of stuff with Columbian Players. I knew everybody. I was a frequenter at Core 11. They knew my drink order quite well. But yeah, this would be fun.
All right, so that's everyone for introductions. So why don't we actually just start the political podcast then? Well, let's start, I guess, with debates first, since we just had our first presidential debate, if you can call it that, on Sunday.
On Monday.
It was on Monday?
It was
It was on a Monday.
It has been a very long week.
He wasn't even there. He didn't even watch it. Did you?
Because you guys ran out of pizza.
That's
The
true.
college Democrats and college Republicans got together and had a debate watching party, and they ran out of pizza and wings. It was full.
We didn't think that
We
many people
did
would.
well
No.
when
It
we
was a great
hosted
turnout.
debate parties in the spring for like the
Primaries.
primaries. We had like 6 people show up, so basically each person had like their own pizza.
Yeah.
But this time we cut back on our number of pizzas we ordered, and 45 people showed up. So we were a little overwhelmed, but we'll be ready next time.
Yeah. More wings will be ready.
Wings.
So let's talk about the debate, the good, bad, and the ugly. Gosh, how do you guys think Donald Trump did in his first, I guess, debate as the Republican nominee?
The one thing that I find interesting is that he's taking the he's basically taking the exact same strategies that he had in the Republican primary to a general election, which at least conventional wisdom says that should not work. Because the audiences that he should be speaking to are very, very different. In one case, you're speaking to the Republican base, so you have very definite images that you have to talk about with the Republican base, whereas with a general election audience, you have a lot more moderates, you have a lot more independents, and so it's interesting to see how this is playing out, because he's basically running roughshod against what we would consider to be conventional wisdom. And so you have a very much somebody who does not necessarily take the conventional way of thinking about politics and runs with it and has done well with it so far. And then you have somebody who is going very much with by the book, if you want to say. Basically has the presidential campaign handbook memorized by heart. And it's really interesting to see how that plays out, at least for me. And I don't necessarily think it's working for him.
I would say though that in the defense of Donald Trump, the way he really became a candidate was that he appealed to the masses. So he had this genuine straight talker type attitude, and so I think what part of his strategy was going into that debate is, one, it wasn't to really change anything, because all politicians get brutally categorized as being almost robotic. And so he's basically saying that this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and I'm not going to change just because people say, I need to change. And also, bucking conventional wisdom has worked out really well for him so far. Everybody said that he was going to be, out of it last July. And now here he is on the debate stage for president.
I think one thing that I would like to see is, I think at the start you could tell, like, for the first maybe 20, 30 minutes, he was very kind of like, there was a little bit of a flow with him, like the way he was talking, he kind of had like this like flow, like you knew what they were doing. And then I think when they asked that race question about like that, I think
It threw him off.
Yeah, I think that really threw him off, and I think with that, it's where he needs to have a little bit more practice, because Hillary Clinton's obviously, with her, she's not going to have, like in debates, she's not going to have the high moments like Trump's going to have, but she's not going to have low moments either. And I think she's going to be very consistent, and I think Trump hit kind of a low moment there, which is why you see there's a lot of people that are criticizing him for that, is because Hillary didn't really take a risk in it, but Trump did, which that's sometimes I like when Trump does, when he takes a risk, but I would have liked to see him kind of been more not so like over the top with it.
So we've been talking about Donald Trump. What do you guys think about Hillary Clinton, how she did in her debate? Because this is also her first main presidential debate. And also, she's the first woman to run for a national party. So kind of, I want to get your thoughts on that. How do you guys think that, how do you think she did in the debate?
I would have liked to see more policy from both candidates, and especially Hillary Clinton, because she's the candidate that you expect to have more policy. Donald Trump kind of goes off what's on the top of his head, whereas Hillary Clinton is, as we said, planned, presidential. And I felt like we needed to see a lot more tangible policy from her rather than personality politics, which we saw in the debate.
She came across very rehearsed as well. There wasn't a whole lot of, genuineness in her responses to the questions.
But I think she did what she needed to do during that debate. She needed to either get him off of his game, or she needed to basically get him to a place where she looks very cool, calm, reserved, that kind of level-headed person that we generally think of that we want to be president. Whereas just one little thing that Hillary said, and he goes off the rails, which is something that, let's face it, it's become part of her, the major narrative that she has for her campaign. Why should you choose Hillary Clinton? Well, if you look at Trump, you say one little thing and boom, he's off to the races.
I think that was definitely the plan from the start. Like, definitely behind the curtain, her advisors were like, you have to try and get under his skin, and as you said, just say one tiny thing, and then he can explode, and then he could have lost the debate if Hillary Clinton wasn't there. Like, he could just get himself all riled up and mad. And I think we saw that with the question about the tax returns, where Hillary Clinton answered it very calmly, very directly, said that it was a mistake, and it was very clear-cut, whereas Donald Trump kind of threw about his answer. He blamed Hillary Clinton and wanted to return the emails for the tax returns, and it wasn't the presidential answer that you'd want, especially with a pressure question.
Although that did score as the #1 comment of the entire debate, that he'll release his tax return when she releases the 33,000 emails.
But what I'm saying is that, like, he spent about, I think it was like 5 minutes or 10 minutes just like spluttering over his answer, whereas what you want is someone who's a lot more like composed. And
I don't mean to seem like that like right ringer guy in like his basement that's like sipping his scotch, but
Please do.
I think the one thing I didn't understand with the debate, and I'm like the guy that was narrating, whatever, I forgot what his name was.
Lester Holt.
Yeah, like I didn't think he was awful. I think it was great, but I think if it was one of those things where like they went on like for 10 minutes about Trump's tax returns, but then obviously there's a few scandals with Hillary, and they didn't mention that. Obviously, there's more than one debate. And my one other thing with Hillary is obviously aside is like, she's not funny, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, she's just not a funny person.
She's not.
And I think she like tries to like make these jokes, and like they don't land, and it's like just don't like. The world knows you're not funny.
Yeah.
It's like a friend I have. Like he's just not funny, so he just doesn't make jokes, and it works out. It's like you shouldn't make jokes. It's just
play to your strengths.
Yeah, just play to your strengths. Yeah.
Bro, Brad, you brought up something really kind of interesting. This is about Hillary and Donald Trump, but also Lester Holt was in the debate too, almost.
Yeah.
So I think this was his actual first presidential debate.
It was his first moderate, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you guys think his performance was as a moderator? Do you guys think he hit the mark, or do you think it was a little off the mark?
I think it depends on like what he was planning going into it, because he was definitely like very, I would say like submissive. Like he just kind of let the just let the two talk. Like if that's what he planned, then he did it very well. But if he wanted to like step in and kind of control both candidates, then he did poorly. So, but I think it depends on how he planned it.
But I think, at least our perception of what a debate moderator should be is that, you hold people to task, you make them answer questions when you ask them a question. And I don't necessarily think he did that.
Yeah.
I think there were some points, especially during some of the more heated exchanges, it just seemed like he just let them go at it. And I don't necessarily think that's what he needed to do. I think that what he needed to do was to say, okay, guys, stay on topic. Let's get back to the actual question that we asked and not all of these random tangents that you both decided to go on.
Well, I think my big thing with him was he wasn't consistent at all.
Mm-hmm.
So in the very beginning of the debate, there was probably a good 20, 25 minutes where you just thought it was two candidates on the stage talking to each other, and you didn't even know there was a moderator. And then he starts going out and fact checking, and he fact checked Donald Trump 4 times, didn't fact check Hillary once, and so from just looking at that, it just appears biased.
This debate, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was the first debate that was entirely split screen and you did not see the moderator at all. And I think they did that on purpose to show the each candidate's body language and reaction as the other candidate was speaking. And I feel like when you have a candidate like Trump who is very animated, that's a very good thing because you really see their personality and how they react in certain situations. And I actually kind of liked that Lester Holt didn't speak up too much because it really gave each candidate and the argument a chance to develop and show how they react when each other is speaking. I kind of liked that you didn't necessarily see him, and they just really focused on the candidates and their reactions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I do like the idea of the candidates essentially debating each other. But the thing is there were times he almost seemed to come to the defense of Hillary Clinton when that's not the point of a debate. So if you look at when it was with the fact check on the Iraq War, where Donald Trump says he was opposed to it, and Lester Holt says no, we were not. Then Donald Trump said, well, it was a Howard Stern show, and he was asking, I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then CNN later, or I believe it was CNN, came out and said that, yeah, actually there's an interview from 2003 where...
I think it was Fox News.
Was it Fox News?
I think so,
Where,
yeah.
I think it was Sean Hannity?
Probably.
No, it was
Neil?
Neil.
We should call him.
Yeah, we need to call Sean
We need to
Hannity.
call Sean Hannity.
Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Hannity? Yes, we have a question.
I think.
But yeah, so it was with Neil Cavuto, and I mean, so it's essentially a wrong fact check. And when you have that many people watching you, expecting you to be accurate,
Which, do you guys remember what the exact number was? Was it 80 million that tuned
That was
in?
a lot.
87 million maybe?
100.
Most.
It was
Just
100?
100 people. So
100 million. I think it was 100
million.
million.
I think
That's
St.
what was
Joe's.
predicted, 100 million people.
But it might have been 80, 85, something like
Which that's
that.
pretty good because that is still, there's like 350 million people, so that means almost close to 1/3
so
actually.
the people that actually vote.
It's the highest
much.
rated debate of any debate since the Nixon Kennedy debates.
That was back in the 60s.
That was the first one.
That was the
so-
first
Yeah.
one.
What about the audience though? Just think because they said the audience has to be quiet, and do you think that benefited the debate or?
It was weird. I thought when we were watching it, the first big applause was something Trump said. I can't remember what he said.
It might have been the
It
email
was the
comment.
email.
It was like they were like it was. I was expecting there would be like one side, but I thought that the audience at times was pretty even
Yeah.
with what it was, and it was just interesting to see that because
Mhm.
I remember, I don't know if it was 08 or 12, there was one, and Obama would say like, "Hey, my name's Barack Obama," and like the audience would just go nuts, and it was like, no, I'm serious. So like, and John
He
McCain,
says it exactly
and,
like
and
that.
John McCain was like could say whatever and one, but it's like. Everything, like, it was just an interesting audience, I thought, because for a while there would be silence and then, like, a cheer, and I wasn't, like, expecting it from one. It was kind of very even.
Well, in
and-
presidential debates, you're supposed to be, when it's like the main party candidates, you're supposed to be very quiet. You're not even supposed to clap or anything until the
Right.
very beginning, very end.
What-
Which I was shocked because the crowd reactions were pretty loud and animated
Which I
on
think
both sides.
Which I think that points to a larger issue, just how the lack of confidence in both major party candidates there is among the general public. Because let's face it, if you look at both, well, actually, I take issue with all four of the candidates that we have right now from the quote unquote four major party
Gary
candidates. Gary Johnson and Jill Stein included in this. That they are just not, at least according to most Americans, they are not quality candidates. That they each have their kind of, I'm going to say they all have their quirks, if you want to call them that, their flaws, and so I think that it just shows you this, this kind of, I guess you could say, collective dissatisfaction with the pool of candidates that we have for this election.
I think you've seen like a growing number, though, like in the recent years, of candidates that nobody likes on both parties. And I think it has to do with the fact that the primaries are so drawn out and they're so heated. So these candidates are literally destroying each other, and people are focusing on these little minute details about, I mean, just look at, in the Republican primary, you had Ted Cruz. And whether you agreed with his policies or not, a lot of people said that he just had a face that you wanted to punch.
Which is true.
But I'm saying, when you're breaking things down to the leader of the free world of the United States to looks,
Yeah.
I think
you're in a really bad state as a society.
I think even you can look at the Republican primaries as what they did with Carla Fiorina.
Yeah, Trump's comments on she just doesn't have a good face. She doesn't have a nice face.
Well, that comment and the comments that the main argument against her was that she was a failed CEO. You can only make those comments so long, and I think that she kept on deflecting them and made good arguments against them, but they kept on hurting her.
I mean, let's also remember that like Trump like literally murdered Jeb Bush too. I mean, let's not like
Literally murdered Jeb.
like if you at one point if you put in www.jebbush.com, you would go to Donald Trump's website. I'm not lying when I say that. Like that happened. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
They just who was the first one that Trump destroyed? Was it Jeb Bush?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went after Jeb Bush right from the get-go.
Well, Jeb Bush was like almost number 2.
Well, no, actually, wasn't it like the first? I might be wrong in this, but like the first thing ever said in the Republican debate, they asked Trump a question. He says, "First off, Rand Paul shouldn't be on this stage. He's polling ninth, and it's the top 8." Like that was literally the first thing said in the entire.
That's right.
debate.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it was Rand Paul first.
Yeah.
Well, Rand
then-
Paul was never really in it to begin with. Let's be honest.
Don't tell Rand.
And don't tell his father either.
Oh gosh, who was that one Virginia governor?
Larry Gilmore.
Jim.
Jim Gilmore. That's right. Yeah.
You're
Larry Gary. He's kind of like the
Exactly.
one character from Parks and Rec. You know, Larry Gergich.
Oh,
Jerry.
Gary.
Or Gary Gergich.
His name's
You know,
actually Gary.
whatever. We'll just call him Jerry.
Just,
man.
if we're talking about Larry or Lenny, whatever, Gilmore. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in Iowa he got like 10 votes.
Yeah.
In the
10
whole
votes.
thing, he got 10 votes. Oh gosh. Well,
And he still stayed in until Trump was officially named the nominee.
Since Jordan kind of brought this up, let's talk about some of the third-party candidates. Let's talk about what's her name, Jill Stein from the
What's
Green.
her name?
Jill Stein from the Green Party and Gary Johnson from the Libertarians. Do you guys think that they should have been in the debates?
I think at least one of them should have been in the debates because I think this is like a really good opportunity to break the two-party system.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like whether they polled 15% or not, and whether they're good candidates or not, it would. If you look back in 50 years, people will probably say this was the best opportunity to have 3 major candidates in a U.S. election, and I think that opportunity has kind of been missed right now.
And I don't think it really would have opened that big of a problem either. People kind of say, well, if you let somebody in that doesn't make the 15%, you're going to have to start letting everybody in. Just say top 3 candidates.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be only the top 2 candidates?
And for the people that are watching this, when Steven says 15%, he means 15% in a national poll.
Very specific national polls, though. I think it's, the major
Like Gallup, ORC,
probably Pew, yeah.
Polls like that. They have to break 15% so they can be on the debate stage. And I want to say Jill Stein had about 8% last time I checked, and Gary Johnson had about 10%. Does that sound right to people?
Yeah.
So do you like?
Well, here's the thing. As somebody who doesn't necessarily like the fact that we have a two-party system, but also understands that any chance you have of getting rid of a two-party system, we're going to have constitutional amendments to do that. It's one of those things where I like the idea of having a more diverse marketplace of ideas when it comes to, especially in a time when we have a much larger share of the population that are independent voters who don't necessarily feel at home in either party. I mean, you have a very large group of people who they feel like they like what the Republicans say about economics, but when it comes to the social issues, they do not feel at home with the Republican Party. And so I think that it would be a good thing for our democracy. However, the idea that they are going to garner enough votes to even have a shot is incredibly laughable.
And I know I've talked to you about this several times, but just being a new voter, this being the first time I can vote in a presidential election, and feeling like I have no idea how to make a decision because there are things that I strongly disagree with from both candidates, having just a third party to kind of, narrow down your options a little. When it seems like they're open it up, but also narrow down at the same time to kind of, compare and contrast a little bit more, rather than just between these two extremes.
Especially in a society that we live in that's, everybody wants variety and they want to be able to pick exactly, you can custom make your own car, your own, computer and all these other things, but we're still stuck in this idea that these political elites from this party and these political elites from this party will get together, they'll they'll pick a person, and then you get to vote for either one of those. And then when you're stuck with two candidates that everybody hates, you're like, well, it kind of feels like democracy's dead.
I think it would have been interesting if, let's say, the Republicans did, let's say, some like guy that wasn't Trump that like Bernie Sanders like hated so much. If, let's say, Bernie like would have gone as a third party, because I think, I mean, the one thing with the third parties is there's never been a guy you've looked at and you're like that's like a guy. Like they're always
That's
just,
the guy.
Like
yeah.
that's the guy. I mean, if
Or
you're
girl.
They're all like the vermin supreme. of the
third
world.
parties, all they do is legalize pot and like they have and that's like half of it.
And that's part of the problem with that you see with the libertarians and the Greens is that look at even their down ballot races. Who do they have? They have all these nut jobs, and they have people who go up onto the stage at their conventions and decide that they're going to strip down to their skivvies.
That actually did happen at the Libertarian
Yeah.
Convention. It actually did happen.
Or you have people like, I can't remember what his name, the guy who wears like the rubber boot.
Vermin
on-
Supreme.
Vermin Supreme, yeah.
Everybody gets a free pony, but you have to brush your teeth.
Because that makes a lot of friggin' sense.
Well, brushing your teeth does, but
But it's one of those things where you think, okay, great, I'm going to vote for either a Libertarian or a Green Party candidate. And say by some miracle of God that they get into office, how are they going to get anything accomplished if they don't have anybody who's a quality candidate in down ballot races? They're not going to be able to get anything accomplished. They'll just be sitting there twiddling their thumbs, probably doing executive actions all the time. They'll be called a dictator because they can't do anything because of Congress.
So hypothetical. All right, let's play around with this. What would happen if Bernie Sanders said tomorrow he's going to run as an independent?
He won't
How
be-
would that shape the rate? Hypothetically, he just does it, or my buddy Mitt Romney decides to run as an independent, or they run on the same ticket.
There's a lot of boards.
Romney
I actually might
Sanders.
vote for that ticket.
I mean,
That's like an odd couple if ever there was one.
Or
Like Bernie Sanders
I-
is Walter Matthau and Mitt Romney is
I think
Jack Lemmon.
I think Romney would be different. Like I think Romney wouldn't get the support because I think people that are voting for Romney also like hate Hillary Clinton that much that they're thinking in their head, well, if I vote for Mitt Romney, then that means it's pretty much a vote for Hillary since I'm taking away from Trump. Where like Bernie, like you saw the passion that like I remember I went to a Bernie Sanders rally in Milwaukee and like the passion that these people had, like they wouldn't care. They would be voting for Bernie. I'm not saying he'd win, but like I think we kind of saw like maybe a third party candidate because he was kind of like one. I mean, he wasn't in the Democrat, but he kind of had that like feel of one. So like there was a lot of passion. So I think there would still be some stuff, but he wouldn't.
There's still people who voted for him in the primary who still say that they're going to write him in. I have a lot of friends who say that they're going to write in Bernie Sanders because they just don't want to vote for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton.
There's probably like some legal issue with running though, isn't there? Because if you run for one party and then change, it's probably like a contract.
No, not really. The only legal issue that you have probably would be that you have to get on the ballot in time.
Yeah,
because
that's
there's a
the problem.
deadline to get onto the ballot.
So you're allowed to like
Some of the
switch
ballots are already
parties.
closed.
Yeah,
right now.
a lot of them are.
A lot of them are already closed.
Yeah,
As far as
because the
think-
one guy who's running as an independent, Mr. Clean, Cue Ball, what's his name?
Mr. Clean, he sounds like
Is it Mr. Clean?
a cleaning
No,
product.
I think
He'll
McMullen.
clean up the mess in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Great slogan.
No, he's bald. McMullen, I think, is his name. The guy, he's basically running. He's a
Oh,
Republican
I know,
who's running
yeah.
as an independent.
He's getting
I think he.
Oh, I do. I think I know what
The
you're talking
only
about.
I think ballot he ever got on was the Utah ballot.
Yeah, it's
Because-
Evan McMullen makes sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the one.
Yep.
And I think he only got on a few ballots because
still accepting
most of them
campaign
closed. Yeah.
donations,
Yeah, chip in 5 and get a free bumper sticker for Evan McMullen.
No, let's do it.
There you go.
This
Are
podcast
they
officially
actually
endorses
are they, desi- are they
McMullen.
designed well? Is that's the
They don't look
question
like the
I have.
hospital signs of the Democrats.
Hospital this
to
way.
the hospital.
So let's get back to the debates. I just read an article saying how Trump pretty much was not preparing for the debates. He said that even in the debate, he's like, I'm not preparing for it. I don't know, where he kind of attacked Hillary Clinton for actually preparing for the debate, and then Hillary Clinton came back saying, yes, Donald, I did practice for my debate, and also I'm preparing myself to become president, which I thought that was a pretty good line. But
One of few.
one of the few ones, yeah.
Yeah.
But CNN just broke a story saying that Chris Christie will help with Donald Trump as debate prep, and as we know, or I don't know. I guess I had one question that was, how can Chris Christie help in the debate prep? The second question is, what is this guy doing? Like Chris Christie, I feel so bad for him. I really feel bad for Chris Christie.
I honestly,
he's had a tough time as governor, and he was pretty much there as VP, and then all of a sudden, the gods chose
Mike Pence.
Mike Pence over Donald. Even Donald was surprised. He's like, "What? Mike Pence? I don't want this guy. I want Chris."
He flipped a coin.
Yeah.
Chris Christie or Mike Pence.
Yeah, they wanted Chris Christie. So I guess one question. Well, first let's talk about the debate. Christie helping in debates. Do you guys think that would be beneficial? And do you think we would have I guess the main question is, do we have to put more food at the table?
Well, it's all going to be it'll be all Kentucky Fried Chicken and well done steak.
Yeah. Well, no, I think though that Christie will help him with the regard, because just look at the way that he destroyed Marco Rubio in the primary debate. Granted, he did it at his own cost because he dropped out the same week. But I would look to see for Trump to go on the offensive. I think that's really the only reason. Chris Christie's an attack dog. That's what he is. And so if he's going to be the one helping with debate prep, look for him to go on the defensive. And I think the Hillary people should be looking out and preparing some defenses, because, let's be honest, she's not the strongest candidate. She has a lot of points that she can be hit on. Mm-hmm. And so if he can dominate the entire debate by putting her on her heels, I think he could count that as a win.
I think with the presidential debates, we're going to see another, not a 180 from Trump, but another change of campaign style. We saw him be his classic Trump self early on in the primaries, and then he kind of turned a bit more presidential. Yep. And I think we can see that with the first debate. He was kind of thinking off the top of his head and just not rambling, but not preparing. And I think with the last two debates, we're going to see a more. I think the second debate, I think he's probably going to experiment a little bit and see what it's like to be presidential. And
what is it like to be respectful and positive?
If it works, then I think on the third one, that's where we're going to see a lot of jabbing, fighting.
I think I want to say the second one. Is that the town hall presidential debate? Does anyone know?
Is that where they walk?
I believe so.
Is that where they're going to walk around a little bit?
Yeah, probably get a little bit of
cardio.
It'll be interesting to see how Donald Trump moves, because I've never seen him talk on a stage and move around and try and engage voters. He's always just standing there, behind.
I think my concern is if Secretary Clinton, walks around, is she going to fall down? And, she's going to hurt herself.
My biggest concern is
heat stroke, and then.
Well, my concern is if Donald Trump walks around, is he going to get himself worked up to where he has a coronary just because of how much fast food the man eats?
Thanks to Christie.
Yeah.
That's what the debate prep is. Get him full for the debate.
Trump on an angry stomach.
I mean,
I think one thing. Oh, sorry, go.
I know I was just going to make a joke that 15-piece extra crispy bucket from KFC, that's good debate prep right
That's
there.
a good snack for Chris Christie.
That's
Brad?
right.
I think one thing the first debate really taught us too is when you watch the debates between Romney and Obama, they were all very both two really good talkers, and I think this one the first one you could just tell it's they can prep all they want, but it's what are the questions gonna be? I mean, I think that's what really set it off, is what questions are asked, because they can ask a lot of questions that you wouldn't know before the debate who's gonna win it. It's just that's the type of race it is, because Trump is so unexpected and Hillary is so monotone that you don't know if Hillary's gonna break or Donald Trump's gonna start talking about some random guy.
Well, I think another thing that you got to look at too is, they hit Trump hard on women and race in this debate, but Hillary really didn't get hit on anything. So are those going to come out later in the debates? Because I think if I'm a candidate, I'd rather have those punches out front in the very first debate rather than that being the thing in people's minds as they're going to the polls.
Yeah.
So I think the Hillary campaign's got has
Let's see.
Does anyone know who the moderator is?
I think it's Anderson Cooper is the next one.
I think it's Anderson Cooper and MSNBC. Does that make sense? I think it's a partnership.
Maybe.
Debate.
But knowing Anderson Cooper, because he's fairly even-handed when it comes to debates, and so I think that if there are going to be any punches, it's going to be when Anderson Cooper moderates.
Anderson Cooper
Yeah.
and Martha Raddatz
Okay.
will moderate the next debate.
Yeah, and so I think that since it's Anderson Cooper, I'm pretty sure it's going to be if we see any punches hit Clinton's way, it's going to be with Anderson Cooper because he's fairly good about making sure that it's even-handed. No matter how much Donald Trump says it won't be.
And then I want to say the
Although
third debate
Donald
is
Trump did say that Lester Holt was fair.
But his microphone didn't work because
Yeah.
that's a conspiracy that
That it was left on.
that it wasn't working. It was malfunctioning. he
wrong.
said. Yeah, wrong.
Wrong. No,
That's not true.
I'd like to see a lot more like fire hit towards Clinton as well. Like, even though she did have like the one question about the emails that she like deflected pretty well, I'd like to see a bit more pressure put on her. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely would support Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. I feel when it came to it, but I would still like to see a lot more fire given to her. Like, I think she doesn't have it too easy, but I mean, you can never have an easy like presidential campaign. But I'd like to see in the debates a lot more tough questions towards her.
I don't know. You can have one. I mean, did you see Lyndon Johnson go against Barry Goldwater? That was pretty easy.
Yeah,
Let's
but
face
Barry
it.
Goldwater was like
Was that the one where it's like the commercial of like
the Lily,
The Daisy commercial,
Daisy-
yeah.
Daisy
Oh,
commercial.
that's like the weirdest thing you've ever. It's like so weird.
Yeah.
It's not only weird.
No,
It's
that's
just like
negative
really.
politics at its best.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you want to have this guy as president? Okay, enjoy the next nuclear holocaust.
It's the saddest thing ever.
That would make me vote though.
That is true.
I don't want that to happen.
Oh. So I guess the next thing I want to talk about is voter participation. As you guys all know, especially with this election, well, I'm interning for the John Gregg for Governor campaign, and I'm going on the calls, and I'm calling people, and I always ask them, hey, there's a debate. No, sorry, hey, there's a presidential election and a governor's election going on. Can I just get your kind of sense to see who you're voting for? And they say, oh, I don't like any of them, so I'm not going to vote. And I'm just like, I can't be there for half an hour telling them you guys should vote. It's your civic duty. I just have to move on to the next caller.
Well,
So what do you guys think about that particular issue when it comes to voter registration?
Well, I think the problem is, at least for this year, is the two presidential candidates. Everybody just assumes there's only a presidential election.
Yeah.
They don't realize, there's senators,
Down ballot
and
races, yeah.
there's House
think
races,
for
there's
this-
governor races.
I was going to say for the state of Indiana, I know there's, of course, president, governor, what's it called, superintendent of public instruction, your congressman. We have a Senate election, so it's a busy year for Indiana when it comes to the November election. What do you guys think of? My favorite is this actually happened last semester. Is that we were talking? It was in one of my core classes. I think it was core 8. We were talking about politics, and one person said, who is not going to be named, but I know they're probably going to be watching. One person said, "Oh, I'm not voting," and I said, "Why aren't you voting?" He's like, "I live in Illinois. I can't go vote." And I was like, "Did you think about absentee ballot?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm just not going to vote. My vote's not going to matter."
Whenever I hear that, whenever I hear people saying that their vote doesn't matter, what I want to say to them is, tell that to the people who marched in Selma. Tell that to the people who marched in Montgomery. Tell that to the people who basically fought, protested, and died for their rights because they were black. And tell them that their vote doesn't matter.
Well, you could look at the women's suffrage movement the same regard.
Exactly. Look at Susan B. Anthony and say, you know what, I'm just not going to vote because it won't matter anyway. There's a technical term in political science we have for that. It's called horseshit.
Very technical.
Yeah, very, very, very technical.
We have to bleep that out.
Yeah.
I think we'll be good.
Yeah. But anyway, it's one of those things that it just really riles me up whenever people say, "Oh, my vote won't matter."
Well, and if you look at it, like 2/3 of the U.S. population doesn't vote.
Yeah.
So if those people decided, hey, you know what, it's a second Tuesday in November, I'm going to go to the poll today. They could make all the difference. They could actually change the election whichever way they wanted.
Brad, do you have any points you want to make?
I don't know, like, this is one of those issues that, like, obviously I care about, but at the same time, I think it's a culture, and I don't think I'll be watching, but my baseball coach here, like, always talks about culture, and, like, I think it's just something where, like, and I'm not gonna, like, say, but, like, I think with the, primaries, like, we saw, like, really good voter turnout because it was different, like, Trump, there was a lot of voter turnout, like, Sanders, there happened to be some voter turnout, and now I think that we've had these candidates for so long, everyone's gotten so, like, annoyed with them that it's, like, kind of like Steven said earlier, like, the primary process wears politics out. Yeah. And then it gets to, like, this part of the election, and, like, I know in my state of Wisconsin we have a big senators race, and I know a lot of my friends, they're like, oh, I'm not voting because I don't like either of them. I'm like, well, we've got a 55-45 polling percentage in senators, like, maybe you should vote for one of them. He's like, oh, that doesn't matter, like, or that's probably going to affect them more than it will the president will in general.
I always like to say that, okay, you might not necessarily need to vote for president, but make sure you vote for your down ballot. Vote for local and state government, because that's actually going to affect your life more so than national government will.
Well, I think what another thing is, you know, the United States really has enjoyed a pretty prosperous and peaceful existence for the most part, you know, especially in recent years. I was over in Israel a couple of summers ago, and we got the opportunity to talk to a member of the Israeli parliament. And I asked him, you know, in the U.S. we have a lot of voter apathy, and, you know, people just don't care. Do you guys have that here? And he, you know, took it kind of like a strange question. He's like, I mean, I never really thought about that, but we don't have it here because, one, they have mandatory military service, so that automatically is going to make you a little more interested in politics, since, you know, your life could be on the line. But also, he said, because of the fact that, you know, there is real threats surrounding them, and, you know, you never know when there's going to be a rocket attack, so people are actually interested. So, you know, they're voting, I mean, it's not perfect, but theirs is around like 80%, whereas in the U.S. it was, what, like 40 for the last election?
I know another interesting argument that people make for not voting is that they don't have time. I know in a lot of other countries, they literally have the day off. It's a federal holiday, so you can go out and vote. Even most countries, I know France, for one, France votes on Sundays, where people are really not working. Do you ever see the United States maybe going in that direction?
I wish, but I don't think so. It's one of those things that would, it would, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about the United States, but I just don't necessarily. I think it's just because of the working culture that we have.
Yeah, we're a workaholic society.
Exactly, and so look at the federal holidays that we basically had to have a Great Depression in order to have anything like banking holidays and work holidays. It was very much so up until through the Great Depression that you would have people working a lot on Thanksgiving and Christmas, whereas nowadays,
well, and you still have people working on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I mean, granted, you know, you have like emergency personnel that, you know, they have to, but I think there should be, you know, a better way as far as, and I think a holiday for the election would be good, but then the question becomes, is it just the presidential election? Is it every election? You know, do we have this holiday every year? And so I think, I mean, it would be something interesting to explore, but I don't see it ever happening.
I guess I have a question directed to one of our panelists. Pete?
Yeah.
How is voting over there in the United Kingdom?
I think it's the same. I think voter turnout's reasonably high. I think it's about 74%. I think for Brexit it was a lot. No, I think the general election in 2015 was about 66%, that kind of area. And then I think the Brexit vote was about 75% because it was a completely different new thing. And I think it was a lot like Donald Trump. It got people going. Like it got people excited and it got people motivated to actually want to go out and vote.
I think people just get bored too.
Yeah.
I know I've talked to some of you about this, but do you think that there would be a correlation of people just kind of upset how they were at Brexit, where they always, I know the days and maybe weeks leading up to it, they said, no, they're going to vote to stay in the European Union. But everyone kind of went out to vote and they had a high voter participation that they actually switched it. And it was kind of a surprise for a lot of us that the United Kingdom left the EU. Do you guys see this kind of in this election? I know a lot of people might be saying like, "Oh yeah, Hillary Clinton is definitely going to be the next president," because who is going to vote for Trump or who's going to vote for Clinton? I guess it can go both ways. Who's going to vote for Clinton? Who's going to vote for Trump? Do you guys think that our voter participation this year can change it?
I don't think so. I'm fairly confident in most of the forecasts that you see. I think that looking at the polls right now, I think it's fairly clear what's going to happen. I don't necessarily see it moving that much, unless we have an October surprise. If we have an October surprise, then you might see some movement.
Well, you know what? The WikiLeaks guy says you were going to have one, so
WikiLeaks have.
Who knows? It's
but
probably
you never know.
It's probably going to be what she has for breakfast.
Although if you
or
look
something
at
like that.
look at like Nate Silverman, who
Nate Silver.
Silverman, same difference. Yeah,
It's definitely not.
From yeah, but he does all that polling stuff, and his polling numbers are actually shifting more to an even race currently. And then also a guy.
I think. Well, if you look at
what's the guy? He's predicted it right for the past 30 years as a professor.
Peter Watkins?
No.
yeah.
I want to say it's some East Coast school.
St. Joseph's University?
We'll say Providence. Just go.
But yeah, but he's actually predicted the election for Trump. So I think, as far as the polling and stuff, I think it's a real toss-up right now.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
I agree with that. I think that we can't just assume that like one candidate's going to win over another. I think because especially with Brexit, it was very much. Oh yeah, Britain are just going to play it safe. It's going to be like the Scottish referendum vote. They're just going to stay in because people don't like change. But we were wrong, and I was definitely surprised to. I stayed up all night to watch it, so I didn't wake up and find out. But I was definitely surprised that we left, and I think it comes down to like specific issues in the country. Like a lot of arguments. For why we left is because the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn wasn't animated enough, wasn't like active enough to get people to vote in, and I think with hindsight in next year we could say that well Trump or Hillary won because we didn't have enough people come out and vote, and this person didn't do their job right, or this person didn't do their job right. I think there's a lot of issues that can come in and hinder the voter turnout. If anyone wants to respond to that, just drop the mic.
Yeah. No, I mean, go for it.
I guess it's just a surprise. I know what Jordan said is like we're 5 weeks out, and that's not a long time, but it is a long time. And like you said, it could always be a October surprise. I mean, a real October surprise that I kind of saw, like in past presidential elections, was
Binders full of women.
I was going to say that, or when Matt Santos ran against Arnold Vinnick.
Nuclear disaster.
Yeah, nuclear disaster in California.
That's true.
Which Vinnick, actually, first of all, those of you who don't know, this
Probably thought they were actual people.
First of all, they're fictional characters. Sorry.
I didn't
In
know.
the West,
I will be honest. I was sitting there. I'm like, should I know about
I was
this?
like,
Wait, hold on. You are one of my advisees and you've never watched The West Wing.
you should really do
Get
that.
out.
I've never watched it. I've got to go too.
It's a great show.
Have you watched The
I
West
don't
Wing?
think, no.
Oh man,
Oh
you guys
my
are doing
goodness.
political
Then
science
again,
wrong.
then again, Jordan has probably told me 10 times you should probably watch the
Yeah.
West Wing. I've gone on Netflix
I-
once, and I'm like, I'll do it later.
If you see House of Cards, you're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I do have to say,
I've
West
seen
Wing
bits
is.
and pieces, but I haven't seen it.
If you guys haven't seen West Wing, definitely you should go out and watch it. It's a great
Take
show.
a week and binge watch it.
Oh, it's going to take more than a week. It's going to take like a couple months.
It's on Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, if you have nothing to do over the summer, just watch that. Or over Christmas break. That would be
That's a
better.
good one.
Yeah, just knock it out over Christmas break. You know.
Or the
Don't-
week Thanksgiving break they give us.
Oh yeah.
Hey, don't take that for granted.
I never do.
Good.
But in that episode, or in that season, there was a nuclear disaster in California that kind of swayed people.
To vote one way or another.
Actually, it could even sway people the day of, if something happens the day of the election.
Yeah.
I know, like, in the episode, never mind, I'm not going to ruin it for everyone.
Well,
Spoiler.
it's,
Spoiler alert.
I don't know who watches the show Scandal.
I watch it religiously. Thank you.
He really does. He locks himself in his room with a bottle of wine and popcorn.
Well, it's kind of weird. Like
Goes
that's like
to town.
me and my mom always. Me and my mom. Well, I'm
kinda
getting
weird.
like Brad personal story time. Well, me and my mom.
This segment.
Gather round, kids.
Yeah.
Uncle Brad's going to tell us a story.
No, me and my mom like watch it from the first day, and we've just like watched it ever since. And there's like an episode like that where like 3 days out of the election, not gonna spoil anything, but something happens and it sways just pretty big too.
Oh, yes. I remember that episode. It was literally, I think, the day before the election.
Thank you, Jose. No, yeah, when the kid dies. Ooh, I just spoiled it.
Spoiler alert, the president's son dies a day before the election. And
Everybody
pretty much,
dies, Jose. Everybody dies.
And pretty much like that, like everyone just voted for the president just because they felt sorry for
I think
him and
Pete's
his
a little
family.
upset you're ruining something for him.
No, I think he's eventually going to watch it.
Yeah, but now I know what's going to
It's a
happen.
good drama.
Oh,
show,
trust me,
but
that's
it's
like
not
the that's like the one little pebble of the whole
Oh.
pile of rocks in the season.
Pete, it's Scandal. There's like 12 different plot twists in
I feel like
episodes.
we were
That's
still
why it's
talk-
called
I
Scandal.
thought we were still talking about the West Wing.
No,
No,
If it
the
was the
West-
West Wing, me and Pete would have been like this the whole time. It was good.
But yeah, no. It's,
Yes, West Wing, like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, is essential viewing for any good political science major.
Another show I looked up yesterday. I'm like, I'll watch it later.
Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
real quick, if we're talking about political shows, one of them that's actually pretty good and pretty funny is Alpha House. I think that's on Amazon. So if you have Amazon Prime, definitely go out and watch.
No one has Amazon Prime.
I do. It's actually.
I do.
It's actually
That's
better.
It's really got a lot
I
of
like
stuff.
it better than Netflix. It doesn't quite have the same variety currently, but it'll
a
go there.
good-
it's getting there.
A good show. It's a scientific fiction show. It's called The Man in the High Castle.
Great show.
It's an alternate history, seeing if the Nazis win World War II.
Yeah, Nazis and Imperial.
It's a good show.
Really interesting.
Did anybody tune in this week? I saw it on ABC. It's like the one where it's like
Yes.
where it's like
Designated
when they have a State of the Union, one
Oh.
cabinet member stays back.
That looks really
Yeah.
good.
Just-
That looks
Designated
really
I'm
with
interesting.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Steven and I started to
actually
watch
started watching
it,
them.
and it's
Was it
actually
Jack,
pretty good.
Jack Brower becomes the president of the United States. Of course.
I do have to
That does
say,
look good.
Steven and I started watching that one. I think we're pretty hooked on it. Actually, probably after this episode, or after this episode of Party Animals, probably going to go back and watch episode 2 this evening.
Thanks for inviting us.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
that's
seriously.
that's an open invitation if you guys want to watch episode 2 before seeing episode 1. I guess we're kind of wrapping up, but one last point I want to make. Stranger Things on Netflix is actually really good. So please
God,
go out
such
and
a
watch
good show.
Stranger Things.
Such a good show.
It's 8 episodes.
Here, watch it.
I
haven't watched it.
I would just like to
watched it,
say,
but I
as someone who was born in the 80s, that show was tailor-made for me.
Yeah, everything's about you.
For me. It's just like everything that I ever knew and love is in this. Oh my
It
god.
does seem like
It takes
from
place-
like 80s movies I've watched. It does from like all the commercials.
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. It does seem exactly like that.
It does take place in Indiana, and I think Jordan would probably be almost. No, you wouldn't be the same age as them, but
No,
I
God,
can
no.
see Jordan and a couple of his friends, maybe another Jordan DeLong and Michael Steinhauer, maybe a John Nichols, the four of them running around trying to figure out
I'm
what's
the
happening.
kid with the curly hair and the ball cap.
Yeah, I
more
can
than
see
likely.
that,
Yeah, but if I'm going to point, characters, yes. Yes. Well, I think we covered a lot in this episode. I do have to agree. Thank you again, Brad, Steven, Pete, Lindsay, and Jordan for joining us. Also, a big special thank you for our technical advisor, Jeff Brewster. So thank you, Jeff. For
Hey, Rody Jeff.
for kind of helping us kind of put this podcast together. So pretty much until next time, this is Party Animals.